The morning outside the royal palace was quiet and cold. A thin layer of fog rested in the air near the tall iron gates. People gathered slowly along the sidewalk and waited with patience. Many of them held phones and cameras ready. Everyone knew what they had come to see. The royal guards would appear soon and take their positions. The guards were known for their discipline and silence. They followed strict rules that had not changed for generations. They did not smile or wave or speak. They stood still like statues made of stone. Tourists often tried to make them laugh, but it never worked. That was part of the mystery that surrounded them. Among the crowd stood a little girl named Lily. She was small for her age and very thin. A soft wool hat covered her head and hid the fact that she had lost her hair. Her cheeks were pale, and her eyes were large and bright. She wore a long coat that looked too big for her body. Lily stood between her mother and her father. Her mother held her hand with care, and her father stood close beside her. They watched Lily more than they watched the palace. They had learned to notice every small change in her face. They could tell when she was tired or in pain or scared. This trip had taken a lot of planning. Lily had spent many months in hospitals and clinics. Machines and medicine had become part of her daily life. Some days were better and some days were very hard. On the harder days her parents searched for anything that could bring her joy. This visit was one of those hopes. Lily loved stories about bravery and honor. She liked reading about kings and castles. She liked the idea of people who stood guard to protect others. When she learned that real royal guards existed, she wanted to see them with her own eyes. Her parents agreed even though they knew the guards would not react. The sound of boots echoed against the ground. The guards appeared from inside the palace grounds. They marched with perfect timing and straight backs. Their uniforms were clean and sharp. Their faces were calm and serious. The crowd fell silent as they took their places. One guard stopped directly in front of where Lily stood. He was tall and strong and unmoving. His eyes looked straight ahead and did not blink. He did not notice the people around him, or at least he pretended not to. He was trained to ignore everything outside his duty. Lily looked up at him with curiosity. She had never seen someone stand so still. To her he looked like a character from one of her books. She studied his face and his uniform. She wondered what he was thinking and if he ever felt tired. Slowly Lily lifted her hand. Her fingers were small and weak but steady. She waved toward the guard with a gentle motion. Her parents noticed and felt a moment of fear. They worried she might be breaking an unspoken rule. Her mother tried to lower Lily's hand softly, but Lily held it up. The guard did not move at first. His posture stayed perfect. His face remained unchanged. People nearby whispered and watched closely. Some expected nothing to happen. Others felt a strange tension in the air. Lily kept her eyes on the guard. She did not wave fast or loud. She simply held her hand up and smiled. It was a quiet smile that came from hope rather than expectation. She had learned not to expect too much from the world. Inside the guard something shifted. He could see Lily in the corner of his vision. He noticed how small she was and how carefully she stood. He noticed the hat and the pale face. He had seen many crowds before, but something about this moment felt different. For years he had followed the rules without question. The rules gave him purpose and structure. They told him who he was and what he stood for. He believed in them deeply. Yet he was also human. His eyes moved just a little. It was almost impossible to see. He looked down for a brief second. That was all it took. Lily noticed. Her smile grew wider. Her eyes filled with light. To her that small movement meant everything. It meant she was seen. Her parents noticed too. They held their breath. They knew how strict the protocol was. They wondered if they had imagined it. The people around them leaned closer and watched. The guard returned his eyes forward. His face remained calm. But inside his thoughts were loud. He thought about his own childhood. He thought about his younger sister. He thought about how fragile life could be. Lily waved again, slower this time. Her arm felt heavy, but she did not stop. She was not trying to change the rules. She was simply being a child. The guard stood in silence as the seconds passed. The cold air touched his face. The weight of his duty pressed on his shoulders. The presence of the little girl stayed in his mind. No one knew what would happen next. The moment felt suspended in time. The rules stood firm. The child stood hopeful. And the guard stood between them, knowing that a single choice could change everything. The guard remained still as the crowd continued to watch. His boots were planted firmly on the ground, and his shoulders stayed straight. From the outside he looked exactly like he was trained to look. Inside his thoughts were moving fast. Lily lowered her hand slowly because her arm began to ache. She did not feel sad. She was already happy that the guard had looked at her. Her mother bent slightly and asked if she was tired. Lily shook her head gently and kept her eyes on the guard. The cold air made Lily cough softly. Her father pulled her coat closer around her shoulders. He felt a quiet ache in his chest as he watched her stand there with so much effort. He wished he could protect her from everything that hurt. The guard noticed the small cough. He heard it clearly even though the crowd was large. He wanted to turn his head and look again. He did not. He knew cameras were everywhere. He knew other guards were nearby. One mistake could cost him his position. Time passed slowly. Tourists shifted their weight and whispered to each other. Some children tried to copy the guard's stiff posture. Adults smiled and took photos. Most of them had no idea what was happening inside that silent moment. Lily reached into her pocket with careful movement. She pulled out a small folded paper. It was a drawing she had made the night before. On it was a castle and a tiny guard standing in front. She held it up proudly toward the guard. Her parents noticed and felt unsure. They did not stop her. They had learned to let Lily follow her heart whenever possible. Moments like these mattered more than rules. The guard saw the paper this time more clearly. He could not pretend he had not noticed. The drawing was simple and uneven. It was clearly made by a child. Something warm pressed against his chest. He remembered standing in uniform for the first time. He remembered feeling proud and scared. He had never imagined that one day a child like this would be standing in front of him looking at him as if he were a hero. His jaw tightened slightly. He stayed still. The rules were clear. No interaction. No movement. No response. Lily waited. Her arm trembled as she held the drawing. She did not feel embarrassed. She felt brave. Even if nothing happened, she was glad she tried. A light wind moved through the street. Lily's hat shifted a little. Her mother reached up and fixed it gently. The guard noticed the care in that movement. He noticed how protective her parents were. The guard's eyes flicked downward again just for a moment. This time more people noticed. A quiet murmur spread through the crowd. Phones lifted higher. Someone whispered that something was happening. Lily's smile returned full and bright. She lowered the drawing and held it close to her chest. Her heart beat faster. She felt seen again. The guard returned his gaze forward. His breathing stayed steady. His hands were clenched slightly inside his gloves. He felt the weight of the moment pressing harder. Another guard stood a short distance away. He noticed the attention building. He glanced toward the child and then back ahead. He did not say anything. He trusted his fellow guard judgment. Lily took a small step forward. Her parents tensed but allowed it. She did not cross any barrier. She simply stood a little closer than before. The guard could feel the closeness now. He could sense the child presence like warmth in the cold air. His training told him to ignore it. His heart told him otherwise. Lily spoke quietly. Her voice was soft and careful. She said hello. It was almost a whisper. Some people nearby did not even hear it. The word reached the guard's ears clearly. He felt something break open inside him. It was such a small word. It carried no demand. It was just kindness. He did not answer. He could not. The rules did not allow it. Still his face softened just slightly. It was not a smile. It was something smaller but real. Lily noticed. Her parents noticed. The crowd noticed. A woman nearby wiped her eyes. A man lowered his phone and simply watched. The moment felt fragile like glass. The guard felt the eyes of the world on him. He also felt the eyes of a child who did not know anything about protocol. She only knew that people mattered. He thought about why the rules existed. They existed to protect something bigger. But he also believed that the spirit of duty included compassion. Lily stood very still now. She did not wave or speak. She just looked up at him with quiet respect. Her strength was fading, but her courage remained. The guard made a decision that would follow him forever. He shifted his weight slightly. It was a small movement, but it broke the perfect stillness. The crowd gasped softly. The guard lowered his hand just enough for Lily to see. His fingers moved in the smallest wave possible. It was slow and gentle and careful. Lily's eyes filled with tears. She did not cry loudly. She smiled and nodded as if accepting a gift. Her parents felt their breath catch. They held each other tightly. They knew this moment would stay with them forever. The guard returned his hand to position. His face became still again. From a distance, it might have looked like nothing happened. But everyone who saw it knew the truth. Something important had already changed. The small wave ended, but the feeling did not fade. The crowd stayed quiet as if afraid to break the moment. People looked at each other with shared surprise and warmth. Many had come for photos, but now they were part of something deeper. Lily felt a gentle rush of happiness move through her body. Her legs felt weak, and her mother noticed. She knelt beside Lily and asked if she needed to sit. Lily shook her head slowly and kept her eyes on the guard. The guard returned to full stillness. His posture was perfect again. His face returned to calm control. Inside his chest his heart beat harder than usual. He knew he had crossed a line that could not be erased. The second guard nearby kept his position. He did not react. He understood what had happened without words. He believed that some moments did not need correction. Lily's parents exchanged a quiet look. They knew Lily's energy was limited. They also knew this moment was giving her strength. They decided to stay just a little longer. A man in the crowd whispered that he had never seen anything like this. A woman nodded and smiled through tears. Phones stayed raised, but no one spoke loudly. Lily reached into her pocket again. This time she pulled out a small ribbon. It was light blue and soft. She had worn it many times. It made her feel brave on hard days. She held the ribbon out with care. She did not step forward again. She simply lifted her hand and waited. The guard noticed immediately. His eyes moved down without hesitation. He saw the ribbon resting in her palm. He knew he could not accept it. He also knew what it represented. He thought of all the ceremonies he had stood through. He thought of medals and honors. None of them felt as heavy as this small ribbon. The wind moved again and carried Lily's breath away for a moment. She coughed softly and leaned against her father. Her strength was fading now. Her parents could see it clearly. The guard clenched his jaw. He wanted to do something more. He wanted to kneel or speak or reach out. He did none of those things. He stayed within the smallest possible space of choice. He tilted his head just enough to acknowledge the ribbon. It was not a bow. It was not a salute. It was simply recognition. Lily smiled and carefully tied the ribbon to the fence beside her. She did not need the guard to take it. She wanted it to stay there. She wanted it to be part of the place. Her mother helped her gently. Together they secured the ribbon so it would not fall. It fluttered softly in the cold air. The guard saw it out of the corner of his eye. He knew he would see it every time he stood there. He felt a quiet promise form inside him. A palace official walked slowly along the line of guards. He noticed the ribbon and the crowd attention. He paused for a moment and observed. He did not speak. He continued walking. The crowd released a breath they did not realize they were holding. The moment remained safe. Lily felt tired now. Her mother wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Her father picked her up carefully. Lily rested her head against his chest. She did not feel sad. She felt full. Her eyes stayed open as long as she could. She looked at the guard one last time. The guard noticed the movement. He allowed himself one more glance. It was brief and final. Lily saw it and nodded softly. Her parents began to move away from the fence. The crowd slowly returned to quiet conversation. Some people stayed behind and stared at the ribbon. As Lily was carried away, she whispered to her mother that the guard was kind. Her mother kissed her forehead and agreed. The guard stood through the rest of his shift without moving. The ribbon stayed tied to the fence. It became part of the scene. Hours later the guard shift ended. Another guard took his place. The ribbon remained. When the guard walked away, he did not look back. He did not need to. The moment was already part of him. Lily spent the rest of the day resting. She told the story again and again to anyone who would listen. Each time her voice grew softer, but her smile stayed strong. That night the ribbon was still there. People passing by noticed it and wondered. Some asked questions. Some smiled and walked on. The guard went home and removed his uniform slowly. He sat in silence for a long time. He thought about the rules. He thought about the child. He knew that tomorrow the world would return to normal. He also knew that normal would never feel the same. Because sometimes a small choice changes more than anyone expects. The next morning arrived quietly over the palace grounds. The sky was pale and clear and the air carried a gentle chill. People gathered again near the iron fence just like every other day. Most of them did not know what had happened there the day before. The ribbon was still tied to the fence. It moved slightly with the morning breeze. Some visitors noticed it and paused. A few asked guards nearby what it meant. No clear answer was given. The ribbon remained. The guard returned for his next shift. He marched into position with the same discipline as always. His uniform was sharp and his posture was exact. From the outside nothing about him had changed. Inside he felt different. He saw the ribbon the moment he took his place. It sat at eye level now. He kept his gaze forward, but its presence filled his awareness. It reminded him of the small girl and her quiet courage. The crowd that morning included families and tourists and workers passing by. Life moved forward as it always did. Yet something subtle had shifted. People were calmer, softer, as if kindness had left a mark on the space. Far from the palace, Lily rested at home. She lay in bed surrounded by pillows and blankets. Her body was tired, but her spirit was light. She held the memory close and replayed it in her mind. Her parents watched her carefully. They could see the exhaustion in her face. They could also see peace. That mattered more than anything. Lily talked about the guard often that day. She told her parents how brave he looked. She said she wanted to be brave like him. Her parents listened and smiled through quiet emotion. At the palace, a few officials noticed the ribbon and discussed it quietly. Some believed it should be removed. Others felt unsure. No one gave a clear order. The ribbon stayed where it was. The guard stood through his shift without moving. People passed and glanced at the ribbon. Some smiled. Some took photos. No one caused trouble. A young boy in the crowd pointed at the ribbon and asked his mother what it was. She thought for a moment and said it was a sign of kindness. The boy nodded as if that answer made sense. Hours passed. The guard felt a sense of calm he had not felt in years. He realized that discipline and compassion did not have to stand apart. They could exist together. When his shift ended, he marched away again. He did not look back. He trusted that what mattered would remain. Days passed, and the ribbon continued to hang there. It became worn by wind and weather. Still it stayed. Lily's strength slowly faded as time moved forward. Some days were harder than others. But the memory of the guard stayed with her. It gave her something solid to hold onto. One quiet afternoon, Lily's parents sat beside her bed. The light from the window filled the room. Lily held her mother's hand and spoke softly. She said she was not afraid. She said she had seen kindness in the world. Her parents listened with full hearts. At the palace, the ribbon was finally removed weeks later. No announcement was made. No explanation was given. Yet the space where it had been felt different. The guard continued his duty. He followed the rules as always. He also carried something new inside him. From time to time he noticed children in the crowd. He could not react. He did not need to. He knew that being seen did not always require movement. Lily's story traveled quietly through those who had witnessed it. People shared it with friends and family. They did not exaggerate. They simply spoke the truth. A guard stood still. A child waved. Kindness passed between them. That was enough. Years later, some people would remember that day when they stood near the palace fence. They would remember the feeling more than the details. The guard would remember it forever. And somewhere beyond rules and uniforms and silence, the moment lived on.